and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance. I am your host, Alicia Singer.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin, and welcome. Today, we're going to go through Worthington's Law some more, and I'll get into that in a minute. We're going to go into Dave's The Money Guy Show that we've, critiqued some of their stuff before. They did the crossover episode with Dave Ramsey. It's like Friends and Sex in the City. It was great. And then they did it. So they did that, and then they did. We have another clip of them doing some stuff after that to try to back off of it, which is even funnier. So we're gonna go through a lot of that, but just the misconceptions again in finance that we'll try to put a spotlight on. To begin though, just real quick for fun, finance news. You hear about Kanye, right? No, he was.
Well, only very minimally. Why don't you fill me in on the details?
So he was on the show, Tim Pool's show.
Yeah.
I didn't actually do the clip for that. Maybe we'll do that clip real quick because it's a short one. But so he was on this show, and other than
if we're gonna do the clip, maybe you should just let me be surprised.
Well, let's do the clip then.
I only have a very base knowledge of what happened, so.
Oh well, he did a bunch of. He was on Alex Jones too, and he's basically said he's a Nazi, and he likes Hitler. I'm not kidding. Let's see if I can find.
Wow. Okay.
Here we go. All right. So here's Kanye and the Tim Pool Show. We're stealing this from the Majority Report. So Kanye kind of gets into like the blaming Jews kind of thing, and then he eventually walks off the set, and it actually gets kind of crazy here. But I just want to talk about this one thing.
If you read the definition, it says you can't claim that there's multiple people inside of banks or in media that are all Jewish or you're anti-Semitic. And that's the truth. Like, it's the truth. What are we talking about? And
what do you mean? You mean?
I'm saying, like, I've been labeled anti-Semite, right? So there's different beliefs about our bloodlines, like the documentary that Kyrie posted. And in general, America has been left ignorant and history has been changed. So when we start questioning things that question the indoctrination, then you immediately get, you said debanked, or what did you say happened to you? Or
Demonetized, deplatformed.
Demonized, demonetized. And what's so beautiful about this time is everyone got to see what's really been happening. And now we can really understand. We can see that Ron Emanuel was right next to Obama, and then Jared Kushner was right next to Trump.
Wait, hold on here. Hold on. Now, don't stop me if I'm wrong, Duncan, but I feel like he's just stringing nonsensical words together in a way that literally doesn't even make any sense. He literally doesn't make any sense.
No, he has severe bipolar, and he's probably been off his medication for a while. That's what's caused his divorce, and he's always been a little bit of an anti-Semite, though.
Okay, so what I'm saying though is bipolar disorder is something that I do know quite a bit about, actually, via people in my life, and I'm going to tell you they all at least make sense. I mean, even when they're off their meds, like literally the words coming out of their mouth make sense, and literally the way he's stringing words together in his sentences, like they don't even do a good job of like painting a whole picture. He literally doesn't even make much sense.
No, and
he's just stringing all sorts of craziness together.
Here's why I wanted to play this. So yeah, it is incredibly anti-Semitic, and yeah, he has pretty much, he said he's a Nazi. So I don't need to comment anymore on that stuff, And the guys who were there, he was there with was Nick Fuentes, who is an open Nazi, and Milo Yiannopoulos, who at least has a lot of fans that are Nazis. So that's who he's hanging out with. And then him and those two guys went and had dinner with Trump previous to this. So it's been bad. I mean, it's been a lot of anti-Semitic stuff. Adidas kicked him off. He was their spokesperson for a while, but I can understand why Adidas would do it. Adidas is their headquarters is in Berlin, and their founders were both Nazis. So Adidas does not want to be attached to that at all anymore. That's not who they are as a company. I can see that. If I were Adidas, I'd be like, "Yep, we're done. I don't care how much it costs us to get out of this relationship." So he's lost all that. What killed him, though, is this. Part of the whole him talking about being debanked is what happened was I guess he was trying to move 140 million or something into Chase, and it was frozen. And he got ticked off and wanted to talk to Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of Chase. And of course, Jamie Dimon didn't want to talk to him. Right? I mean, especially after a lot of this stuff was happening. Jamie Dimon's wife is Jewish. So, like, Jamie Dimon really wants this on his, so, not that I think Jamie Dimon's a great guy, but I understand. What's funny about this is the reason the money was frozen, we don't know the exact reason, but Kanye has claimed that he owes $50 million to the IRS in back taxes that he hasn't paid. So if that's the case and he's refusing to pay it, then the reason his bank accounts were frozen is because the IRS froze him for back taxes. Not because the Jewish cabal is coming after him. It runs the world. It's run by the Jewish cabal and the Lesbian Periodontist Association. Those are the two organizations that run the entire planet.
What?
Yep, you know it. Yep.
Okay.
It says it in the Bible, the lesbian orthodontists.
Oh, man.
No, I mean, it's literally that crazy. It's nuts. He's gone. But the thing about it is just for a fun news segment, not a financial news thing. Yeah, kids, if you don't pay your taxes and you don't set up a plan with the IRS, because he can probably set up a payment plan. They'll work something out.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, there's some rules that go with it, but it's not that hard to establish a payment plan to get those taken care of. Right. It's not that hard at all.
Yeah, the IRS will only freeze your accounts if you're really, really delinquent and you haven't done anything about it. And furthermore, if there's fraud or you intentionally defrauded the IRS or you're really obstinate, then they'll arrest you. But it takes a lot for them to file any sort of tax fraud or tax delinquency charges against you. So if Kanye's in trouble with the IRS, it's because he's really trying to get into trouble with the IRS. It's not, you can't, because it's hard to tag somebody for tax fraud. So,
oh my goodness gracious. Okay.
But that's our fun opening news story. So, but yeah, did you have another comment?
Only he literally did not make any sense. I mean, like, I'm not even just talking like the craziness of the ideas. I'm talking about from the perspective of somebody who's an English teacher. He was using a lot of good vocabulary words that don't belong together in sentences.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the words he was stringing together don't make sense together in sentences. So, literally, making sure you understand what he's even trying to say, what he thinks he's trying to say is, like, questionable at best.
No, he doesn't make sense.
However, he did get across the idea that whatever those ideas are, they were anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
In some nature
and
something to do with him being unbanked or debanked or whatever you called it.
Well, it got worse, and then he ended up walking out of the interview. But we don't really care that much about that. I mean, it's bad, but it's no. But yeah, I'm with you. He didn't make sense logically, politically, or grammatically. So it was just a shit show.
Listen, I don't expect perfect grammar. I teach teenagers, and we know we don't get perfect grammar, but I do require that the sentences, all the words in them, go together.
There, yeah. At least it's coherent.
Right, is we're not. No.
All right.
So I'm betting, Duncan, that we have some coherent Worthington's Law clips that we could look at.
Yeah, they're sort of coherent. Yeah. So
all of them should be more coherent than the one that we just watched.
Oh, absolutely.
Can we set the bar at least that high?
Yeah. It's much more coherent than what we watch.
Wonderful.
So
I feel good about setting it there.
So-
what are we going to look at now?
So we're going to look at the Money Guy show, and they did the crossover episode with Dave Ramsey. And as much as I'd love to do the whole, whatever it was, 45-minute hour show and go through how just terrible it was, because they suck up to him the entire time. And I'm sure all the questions were pre-scripted for them, what they could ask Dave Ramsey. They go in there and they did suck up pretty bad. And just, I'm going to give you sort of a taste of how bad it was and how incoherent.
Preston, the Money Guy. You mentioned that every year, over the last every year, there's always something to worry about, always something to be concerned about, always something to be nervous about, always something that's frightening out there. When you think about looking over the next 30 years, and you think about the future for your grandchildren and for their children, and that, are there things that get you excited? Are there things that you're seeing that are changing, at least as it relates to building wealth and personal finance, where you say, you know what, this is what, if I had to attack the world today, this is the way that I would do it. I'd go figure out how to be a programmer. I'd get into real estate. Or are there things that you say, I've seen this story before. I know this movie. Here's what I'd recommend to do moving forward to build wealth.
I'm the opposite of pessimistic about the world we live in.
I'm going to add, I actually think that's not a bad question, right? You're an old guy. You've been doing stuff for a long time. You're a businessman. What would you do if you were starting today, knowing what you know? I think that's a decent question. The problem is he's going to give a bad answer, and they're just not going to push back.
Live in today. There's problems today that are different and big, but there's more stuff to do that's different and big. I mean, you can, when I started, it was a big deal to buy a personal computer, and now you can log on your phone and start a business in 26 seconds, and you just suddenly, I am now on Etsy, I'm now on eBay, the number of people that call us that are doing side hustles where they're just doing some kind of buying old golf clubs, the old eBay story, right? And fix them up and sell them. In the old days we used to have to put an ad in the section of the newspaper back when we had these things called newspapers, and they had ads in them, and they were classified ads, and then people had to come to your garage. No, man, they just ding, 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 and all of a sudden you can start a business and make so much money right now, so much easier. The barrier of entry to making money and building a career, and if you don't like it, changing it is, oh God, it's an exciting time. I mean, the stuff, and it's not, the speed of that is good, and yet the speed of the problems are there. And so, but it comes back to, I'm not going to adopt a victim mentality, and I'm going to control my future destiny. And it comes back to this belief that the guy in my mirror is the problem and the solution. And he can do it, she can do it. And man, that's called hope. And it works. My grandkids, man, I envy them. I wish I was going to be around to get to play in the sandboxes they're going to play in. It's going to be fast.
I think it's interesting because you're hitting on something really powerful, Dave, and the fact that we've already talked about the Millionaire Next Door. We've talked about y'all's own wealth survey. We have our own survey. Optimism is the key. I mean, it is it's not even close. I mean, it is 87 to 90% of successful people share that same optimistic mentality. And we talk.
Okay. So, was that coherent enough for you?
Yeah, did he have an optimistic mentality?
Well, here's the deal. This is where we go back to Worthington's Law, which is our fun little game that we play. Worthington's Law is not a real thing. It was something we stole from a sketch show from the 90s. All
right, so why don't you define for us in your 30-second version what this is?
Oh, it's even quicker than that. Worthington's Law just means the more money you have equals the better person you are. So if somebody has more money than you, they're therefore better than you and beyond criticism. Right? That's Worthington's Law. We make a joke about it because that permeates in the financial world where they're sitting there going, well, gee, wealth is optimism and wealth are sort of correlated. And it's like, are they though? And how do we know that? Right? Well, we did studies and rich people tend to be more optimistic. Well, yeah, because they're rich. I mean, it could be that it's just because, well, yeah, I'm very optimistic. I have lots of opportunities. I'm a millionaire. As opposed to, I'm poor. I have no opportunity. Yeah.
I can go to any school I wanted. If I want to move across the country, I can do so. If I want to, et cetera, et cetera.
I can start a business in 26 seconds because I have the resources and capital and ability to do it.
If I don't want to clean my bathroom, I can hire somebody to do that because I can afford to pay a cleaning service, right?
Yada, yada, yada. So the premise of this was so such a great question to get, right? If they were saying, somebody asked me, okay, Duncan, at your age, what would you have done differently, right? Knowing what you know and knowing how the world is today. And I would have, thought about it. And I would have said, well, I'd have done these things differently, right? I wouldn't sit there and go, gosh, it's so much better today than it was when I was there. And it's so much easier, because that was his answer. Anybody can be rich today. Anybody can just start their own business and make $1 million. The other problem with that is this, and this is what bugs me about Brian Preston and Bo Hansen and the Money Guys show, is they're CFAs and they're both CFPs. They should know that that's not true, that that's actually false, because the reality is things are worse today than they used to be. And I'll show you this right here. Let's see if I can get this cleaned up a little bit. So I looked this up. Here's just the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, and they did this is the Economic Mobility Project. So what they're talking about is what's called intergenerational mobility. It's what are the odds that you'll end up making more money than your parents, equally. And you can go through this article. We'll attach it below, but this is what I wanted to show you was this graph. This is called the Great Gatsby Curve. And what they do is they look at all these different countries, and on the left here, on the vertical, it's the intergenerational earnings mobility, okay? So the higher you are, the less mobile people are in your country. The less likely they're going to make more money than their parents, all right? The lower you are, the more likely they're going to make more money than their parents. And on the horizontal line here, it's what does income inequality look like, all right? If your income inequality is above 30 to 35, it's bad. Because that's what it was in the 1920s in the United States. Okay? So look where the United States sits. We have worse mobility, income mobility, than Pakistan, Switzerland, Singapore, France, Spain, Japan, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Canada. We're terrible. You are less likely to make more money than your parents in the United States today than you were when Dave was starting out. And if you talk about income inequality, we are really bad. But we're comparable to your ability to actually change and make more money. I mean, we're barely better than what, Italy and China and Argentina and Chile. I mean, so to sit here and go, well, it's so much easier and better today, and it's you should be so optimistic. It's like, yeah, I'm not sitting there saying you shouldn't be hopeful, but I think you should be realistic. And when he sits there and goes looking in the mirror and realizing you're the problem and the solution, well, no, you might not be the problem, but you were probably the only solution. And I would rather you go into that battle prepared than you go in thinking, oh, well, this will be an easy win and get your ass kicked. And I think it's very irresponsible for two CFPs to sit there and tell people, oh, yeah, we agree. And if you're just optimistic, it'll be fine. It's the whole road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I'm sure Confucius said, I'm sure you've seen it on a fortune cookie, right? But that's the problem is if you're not prepared for what you're actually going to be competing against, then it's kind of worthless as a financial analysis. If I tell you that this is going to be easy and it ends up being incredibly hard, then I've kind of done you a disservice. And I think it's really irresponsible of them to do that. I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, but I think that was a little tacky on their part not to follow up and say, well, but let's be reasonable. Or at least say, hey.
Well, I feel like he missed an opportunity. I'm going to go a totally different direction on this, honestly. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just a different thing that
Sure.
I really noticed. So one of the things that was asked of Dave Ramsey by the Money Guys had to do with like what he was excited about,
Mm-hmm.
like what what he felt optimistic about within personal finance now.
Mhm.
And he started talking about technology, which felt, I'm not saying he's not excited about technology, and yes, compared to when he was younger, it really is wonderful.
Right.
But I feel like he's missed some opportunities to plug things that are happening that he could even toot his own horn about.
Mhm.
Honestly, like, talking about, how a lot of the millennials generation are really, really more uncomfortable with the idea of death than the older generations than them. And for his platform, that's a total win. Like those kinds of things to be excited about. He missed some opportunities to actually really jump into some things that are happening with the younger generations in personal finance.
Right.
That actually would have totally aligned for him with his platform. So I'm not really sure why he didn't go there. Instead, start talking about you can start a business from your cell phone, which is super cool. But
If you have
missed opportunity on his part, you know what I'm saying?
Once again, the technology, you still have to have the money and the resources to have the technology. You have to have the money. If I'm going to buy and sell used golf clubs, I have to have the money to buy the golf clubs and ship them and do all that. I have to have cash up front. That's the thing he's missing, is you have to have capital to do all that anyway. So we're not talking about everybody. We're talking about people who already have money.
So the thing that excites him, though, he's excited about a thing that only applies to people who already are of certain means, rather than being excited about things that apply a little bit more generally, maybe across a generational board, so to speak, which also ironically aligns with his platform.
But that's the problem, is that when we're looking at financial planning, we're not looking at it in a, and you should be looking at it in not in a generic approach, but in an individualized approach, because it's different for every person. It's not a one size fits all. And the thing I have a problem with is when you're sitting there going, well, we're talking about in general, it's just better for everybody. I just showed you a graph that shows you it's not. And the reason millennials are so against debt, and the Zoomers are so against debt, and are so against big purchases, and don't want to buy houses, and are less likely to want to get married and spend that money, isn't because things are so great. It's because things are so bad. They're trying to hold on to as much of their cash as they can because they're afraid, and they should be. So it's not a win for Dave. And furthermore, it kills the sales pitch, because the sales pitch is, do what I say and you'll be rich. Do what I say and you'll be a millionaire. He says it over and over and over. And the Money Guy show does it a lot too. This is how you build wealth and become independent and become a millionaire and all this crap. It's the sales pitch. So if I sit there and say, well, yeah, it's great because they're more averse to debt, but then they're more averse to debt because they're broke.
Well,
then it kind of kills my whole fucking.
I think he can still swing all of that sort of to, kind of proving his own point, being like, see all of these things that people have done to themselves and the society has done to the people, and this younger generation, they're not standing for that, and they're on my team. You know what I mean? Like trying to.
I don't follow you at all there. Sorry. I didn't.
Well, sorry. I think that he can. I think that he can sort of use that to sort of show that there are more masses of people that are wanting to do the kinds of things that his platform suggests, even though he probably wouldn't be citing the reason why, because he wouldn't necessarily flow in with that. But,
I don't see that there are a lot of people trying to do those things because of his platform. They're doing them for very different reasons.
No, they're doing it for very different reasons, but he could certainly utilize that and try to connect it to his own platform.
No, because his platform is for a very different reason. It's the idea is if you do these things, you'll become wealthy. That's what he's selling. That's his snake oil sales pitch. But that's not. It is snake oil because it doesn't make anybody rich. Not having debt doesn't make you instantly rich. There's no correlation there. So he can't. my problem is that it's irresponsible. Especially, Dave saying it is one thing because he doesn't really have any credentials. The money guys showing the other end, these guys are putting CFA, CFP behind their names. They're educated. They should have pushed back or said something, because it's irresponsible to sit there and say, oh, well, yeah, see, it's just optimism. No. There's other factors here that we need to be really talking about. Now, they're not economists, so I'm not going to dog them too much. But the bottom line is it's irresponsible to not point out that, yeah, but if you're in a situation where you don't have that kind of resource and capital, now we're talking about a different person. But once again, they're business people. They're not targeting poor people. They're targeting people with money, because those are the people who can afford their products, right? And I think the Money Guy show, my guess is it didn't go so well. So here's another clip from the Money Guy show, where they kind of backtrack a little bit. After they did this episode with Dave, they did another 45-minute to hour episode where they explain how we're different from Dave.
Oh.
So I'm guessing it didn't go so well the first time.
The Money Guy.
I think it's important to kind of know where you fit in to this and what your philosophy. I mean, because look, if you're a person that does struggle with what we consider somewhat of the basics, meaning the discipline of not overspending, not being able to live on less than you make, and you're running up tons of credit card debt, I think that Dave will help you with the behavioral side that focuses on the debt. Now, let me pivot. If you were a maximizer, a financial mutant, if you will, I think that we offer a very unique perspective, because what we will help you do is maximize your wealth building journey. And so before we
So there it was.
What?
That was it. That was their walk
So
back.
they basically didn't say anything.
No,
We're different.
they said
Oh, brother.
no. They said exactly what they needed to say. It just shows you how shallow it is. Look, we didn't push back on Dave, because if you're an idiot and you can't save money, and you don't know what you're doing, then Dave's probably okay. And so that's why we didn't push back or say anything. But if you're intelligent and you have money, you should be listening to us. That was the entire fucking speech right there. And they did a whole 45-minute video explaining why, if you're smart, you should be watching our show. If you're stupid, watch Dave's show. And see, we weren't talking about everybody. We're just talking to people who already have money and know what they're talking about. So therefore, we're not doing anything weird, which tells me they might have gotten some kickback from somebody.
Yeah, well, their funny thing is saying that Dave's platform is great for beginners who don't know stuff.
Right.
But if you're anything more advanced than training wheels, then that's where we come in.
Right.
Right.
So they kind of walked it back and spit on him, but they did it after the fact. They wouldn't do it to his face. They waited till they were on their show to go, well, we're just better. And we weren't really talking about everybody. We're just talking to the maximizers, the financial mutants, as it were, the people that really know. We're not talking to the rest of you, because it covers them for the whole thing. You go, oh, well, yeah, if they are talking about upper middle class people, then shit, yeah. Then what they're saying is true. If you're talking in general terms, no. A lot of what they're saying is bullshit.
Right.
So they had to narrow that so they could cover their ass. So it just shows you how shallow the whole thing was. And I love the fact that they would just jump back and walk back the whole fucking thing and chicken shit out like that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, they must have been getting some sort of comments that made them feel the need to address that.
I don't know for sure. I can speculate. I remember this when I was doing my my CFP work. There was a big scandal where it was a CFP in New York, a really wealthy guy. He got hired by McDonald's to do a budget to show that you could live off of $7.25 an hour minimum wage, which still is $7.25 an hour. And he took the money, of course, I would, and he went to McDonald's and said, yeah, you can't. There's no city in America where you can live off $7.25 an hour. And then he did a hypothetical budget to show them, look, if you wanted to live off $7.25 an hour, this is how you do it, right? And in the hypothetical budget, it assumes that rent was a lot lower than it should have been, that you have no utilities, so you don't have water or electricity. It assumes you have no transportation costs, no cell phone costs, no medical insurance or bills, no health insurance, no life insurance, nothing else, right? And still on that budget, you had to have 2 full-time minimum wage jobs just to make ends meet. And what happened was McDonald's took his hypothetical that he did to show them that this is stupid, and they published it and gave it to their employees and put his name on it as proof that, yes, you could live off minimum wage. And then he almost lost his license with the CFP. And he got called into the board, and he explained to them, no. This was a hypothetical that I wrote, not for publication, just to show them how stupid what they were asking was. And the CFP board sued McDonald's. You can't be using our title with his name or anything like that on this bullshit thing. I'm guessing if they're CFPs and they're saying shit like that and they're on Dave Ramsey's show, it might have been that somebody at the CFP board called them and said, hey, you need to correct some of this shit. I don't care how you do it, just do it. I'm not saying that happened, but I've seen it happen a lot in the past. Where somebody...
You're saying it's possible.
I'm saying it's plausible. I'm not saying that's what happened. But the fact that they did this show only, less than a week later, to how we differ from Dave,
right?
To go back and walk back all the shit they said on the previous show, I think that's a little fucking telling.
Yeah, to be honest, and maybe I haven't watched their show enough, but I fail to see how they're really very different from Dave. Honestly, like it seems like they're a variation of the same thing.
They're not. Dave's, Dave's koosh ball, they're spider ball. I mean, they're, I don't know how else to, he's Coke, they're Pepsi.
Right.
I mean, they're not that different.
Yeah, it's all cola.
Sprite versus Sierra Mist. It's,
Right.
Everybody's got their preference.
What do we have coming up next?
Okay, so I want to talk to one more thing real quick. This is because this goes back into how this some of these conservative views sort of permeate in finance through Worthington's law, the more money equals better than kind of thing, and how people are, and it's how you sort of then view and address the world gets stuck in this bubble where you're not looking at it from a financial perspective, you're looking at it from a political perspective, and then you're trying to make the finances or the financial analysis fit whatever your political view is, right? Or your social or religious view, which I think is a serious problem. And this one, they're going to talk about why so many men are not working today. And this is true, but their analysis is going to be really biased.
So Ken, I was listening to our friend Mike Rowe's podcast the other day, and he had an author on.
Real quick. So on the left is Ken Coleman. He's apparently the employment expert for Dave Ramsey. And it's Dave Ramsey on the right, financial expert Dave Ramsey. Here we go.
Eberstadt or Eberstadt, I don't know how to pronounce it, but should listen to Mike pronounce it because with his wonderful pipes, he does a great job of pronouncing it, right? Yeah. But Mike has been sounding the same alarm that you and I have been sounding, particularly you, that we have what you were saying at the break is a social crisis evolving, and it's showing up in the unemployment numbers when we properly measure them. Now, this economist is a mathematician that did this book, How Things Work. I guess that's Mike's podcast. I don't see the name of his book off the top of my head. Somebody handed it to me the other day at an event.
I believe it's Minute Work, if I'm not mistaken. Something along
but the essence of their discussion.
Real quick, if you're taking research advice from an economist or a financial analyst and you're getting it from a book they wrote as opposed to an academic journal, it's probably bullshit. Because anybody can publish a book. A peer-reviewed journal is a lot harder.
You and I have been having a similar discussion. Is this shift in the workplace right now that we've got a large number of jobs available and no one applying for them. There's a shortage of labor for the first time in post-World War II America. We've never seen this in modern America. And the reason there's a shortage is not because the jobs are so plentiful. It's because there are, according to this article from Fox News, quoting Mike Rowe and quoting this economist, there are now 7 million able-bodied males between 25 and 40 years old that are able to work and are not even looking for work.
Yeah, it's correct. And it's staggering. And so the point here is that what's going on? This is causing massive economic problems. Before we look at the social, very quick glance here. When you have a gap in the jobs like we've had now for the last 2 years, then you've got real small businesses being hurt by this. Think about the restaurants in your small town. They can't find people to work, and it's affecting their livelihood. Then the other economic factor is, of course, we still see a war for talent. And so wages have gone up tremendously in the last 2 years, which has now led to a stubborn inflationary period that we are in. Now, that's the economic piece.
Now, oh,
wages in what kinds of jobs, though? That's the question. Is it wages across the board in everything? I think not.
well, not in everything, but wages have been increasing fairly rapidly. The problem is that inflation is way higher. The other problem is you're getting out of COVID, and a lot of people are starting to realize, well, gee, I should be working for more. People are unionizing. Look at the rail workers strike that happened recently, right? They've been cut so much, and they've been living on so little for so long. Wealth increase it's nothing. Worker productivity is through the roof, but wages have been flat forever. Now they're finally starting to climb, but it doesn't mean a whole lot when inflation is so high. The other problem here is okay. The reason why you have 7 million American men that are just not looking for work, a lot of them are just sitting at home, right? Playing video games, watching TV, whatever. It's not because they're lazy or they're stupid. It's because, and this has been going on, this is not new. This has been going on for decades, that this has been increasing. And the White House, especially under Obama, they did a lot of research on this about 10, 12 years ago. And it's because you have a lot of guys that have either or dropped out of high school or barely made it through high school, and they can't get decent work, so they just gave up. And because the wages have been so terrible for so long, what are they going to do? They're going to go get a minimum wage job, like we talked about with the McDonald's thing, and you can't even survive off that.
Right.
So why not just give up? As opposed to what they missed from a lot of that was, and I have an article, a Yahoo article I'll attach for you guys. The government's been talking, well, gee, if we did a better job of unemployment insurance, if we did a better job of job reallocation, of helping these guys get education so they can be more competitive, that would be a big step up. But we're talking about guys between 25 and 36 who just can't really compete in the job market. So what we're talking about is not, it's a systemic problem. It's not that they just don't want to work. It's that they're not really in a position that it does them any good. Right? You have to give some incentive to make it worth your while.
Right. I mean, if you're telling somebody that you can work all of these hours at this particular type of job and you're still not actually going to be able to make ends meet, then it's really pretty defeating. It's kind of a what's the point sort of situation.
Right.
You know?
But if you're with them, they have the Worthington's Law mentality, which is your wealth and your amount of money is equal to what your worth is. Well, right. It doesn't mean these guys are worthless, in my opinion. My view, and this is just the economic reality, is they're valuable. We're just not utilizing them because we haven't given them the opportunity to be utilized. Which tells me that this is a societal issue and not a blame the individual issue. especially when you're talking about 7 million guys like that. That's a big number. That is not a blip on the radar. That's not one guy who's just being a lazy shit. That's that's a systemic problem. There's something else there, and we already know what it is. Because these guys just didn't get the advantage. But that's what they're missing. And this idea that, go work for the restaurant or whatnot, doing what? Right? I'm going to go work for these restaurants and make shit. Oh, yeah, it's great for the restaurant owner. Sucks for me. I mean,
social piece. What's crazy about this is that you've got 6.8 million people that last month, according to the latest jobs report and the Census Bureau, 100 million Americans weren't working last month. Now, half of
100 million.
100 million, but half
were working.
No, hold on.
No, we don't have 100 million unemployed. There's only 300 million in the whole state.
You can say they were unemployed. I'm saying just not working, period. I'm just breaking the numbers down.
Oh, yeah, like
half are retired.
Okay.
Another 12% are dealing with some type of long-term illness, or disability. Okay. And then 5.6 million people saying, I don't want to go back to work because they're scared of COVID. And then the number is right at 7 million that are saying, I don't want to work. And those are the men. So the social factor that's going on here is you've got two factors. One, you've had decades and decades of entitlements. It starts with welfare. And then if you look at during COVID, where people were getting payments every week, every month. All right. So that's an entitlement where they're disincentivized to actually go back to work. And then, Dave, I think the fact that for decades we've literally taken the pain away from our kids. We've removed the struggle. And I don't say this with jest, but I think when you look at things like everybody gets a trophy for participation, and nobody learns the sting of failure. Nobody learns the sting of rejection. So what happens is...
Okay. So there's the analysis. There's Worthington's Law in motion. Perfect example. If we just treat these people worse and take away any help, they'll work. The fact that we gave these people COVID checks to stay home so they wouldn't starve, that is why they don't want to work. Well, those COVID checks are gone.
Right. Why would that make somebody not want to work now?
It doesn't.
Would make you not want to work then.
Right.
Because you're like, I don't want to get COVID, and I can stay at home and not get that, and I can continue to feed my family. You know.
Well, and it's such a backwards way of thinking, because the reality is that if you give people help and opportunity, they're more apt to want to work. And this has been proven many, many times. There was a great case. There was a town called Dauphin in Canada, and they did a basic income for all these people that lived in this town for years as an experiment. And this town had higher employment rates than almost every other town in all of Canada. So by giving people money every month for free, just here's money, more people worked. They had less problems with suicide. They had less problems with crime. People tended to work more hours. Why? Because there was a safety net there. They didn't have to worry. They weren't under stress all the time. If I'm in a position where I've got no benefit, no opportunity to really do much, and I'm always worried about, where my next meal's coming from, or if I get injured, if something's going to happen, it puts a lot of stress. And this whole thing about, if we're just too nice to our kids, we give them trophies and we give them free education. We should be more harder, to make them more rough, to make them more tough, right? It's like, yeah, I know those kids. And the reality is if you don't have the option of going to college and life sucks and you have to work all the time just to fucking make ends meet and you're 14, I mean, I can see where, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell crack, or I'm going to sell heroin, or I'm going to sell ecstasy. Because I can go out and in 2 hours, I can make $8,000 selling illegal drugs. Or I could work 40 hours a week scrubbing floors to make what? $200?
It's not very enticing.
It's a no fucking brainer at that point.
Right.
But if you give them the opportunity, well, yeah, but you can go to college and do all these other things. And it's like, well, yeah, now selling drugs doesn't seem so attractive.
Right.
The money might be, but prison time is not. Right? So I might...
Right. Well, and if you have alternatives that can make you a decent income, like in an ongoing sort of way, then...
Yeah.
there's incentives to go for that as opposed to the floor scrubbing situation.
Well, right. Well, even the floor scrubbing situation, if that job paid $20 or $25 an hour, I mean, it'd be a lot more attractive. You could live off that.
For sure.
That'd be reasonable. But no. We're being too soft. We just cut everybody off. It'll be better.
We just have to treat everybody like dirt, and then they'll want to work, and
Right.
That's how that goes. Because I know I work harder when I feel like I'm treated like dirt.
Yeah, I know.
It's
We
very
know.
motivating.
That's a fact. Yeah. Go to business. I wish these days. Go to fucking business school. There is no study in business where they talk about this, where it's, oh yeah, if your employees are pissed off, you're going to get great results.
It says no textbook,
No.
business course ever.
No study ever done has found that. But apparently they know more than we do.
Good amount of the 7 million men, not all of them, are in this conversation that Mike had with this economist, are looking at screens based on the data. They say how much time they spend on screens. They get
2,000 hours a year.
2,000 hours a
These
year.
7 million men, 25 to 54, are spending 2,000 hours a year on
So
screens.
self-medicating because they're scared to leave the cave, using your old analogy.
Not cave, it's mother's basement.
Right. But the idea is they're afraid to put themselves out there. And here's what we know about work. So when someone succeeds in work, their self-esteem goes up. 2, they have financial independence or the opportunity for financial.
Oh, see, he's so close. So close.
So if you work equals financial independence. That's already a premise that literally doesn't make sense, and it's very, very. It assumes so many.
But there was one word he said that was so important. If you succeed at work, then you have more confidence, more financial independence. If you're not succeeding at work, then why not just go home and watch TV? That's what he's missing. He's so close that he just drops the ball. And literally spikes the ball in the 2-yard line. I mean, it kills me. But that's
that too.
But that's the whole problem.
It's also just a ridiculous premise. It just assumes it's just such an entitled idea that all right, you succeed at work equals financial independence and all of these other things.
Well, I mean,
it's just not true.
Well, if you're succeeding, sure, but if you're just at work and work sucks and you're not making that much money and you're not really getting ahead, then yeah.
Well, you could be succeeding at a job that just doesn't pay enough, and you're doing a very good job at it.
True. And yeah, and then what's the point? You're just killing yourself to make somebody else money. Right? I love it. He was so close. So close. They tried really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, it's the idea that Worthington's law, that your value equals your wealth. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Because I'm sure if we got these guys good jobs, they'd probably, a lot of them would crush it. But you got to put them in a position first to get that, which they're not in. So we'll wrap up here real quick. We'll wrap up. We'll see what else we have time for. But let's do this. Let's do. Are you ready?
I don't know. What should I be ready for?
Ooh, for a cage match. You ready for a cage match?
Ooh, with ringside commentary.
Okay, so here we go. Cage match. So we haven't seen this. This is new.
All right. And will I know what they're going to say when I look into my crystal ball, Duncan? Will I see what they have to say? All
I know is this is titled, "Is this the most epic Dave Ramsey rant ever?" Ooh, I'm excited.
So excited.
I'm so excited. All right. Nerd fight. Here we go.
We have now proven in a culture that is completely soft, coddled, raised by helicopter parents, enabled, that you can be offended by almost anything because you people are so wussified out there. I never dreamed, George, that you would actually post an Instagram.
I'm sorry, a guy who worked in real estate and then got a radio show through his friend, and he's telling other people he's wussified. I'll bet you his hands are so soft. I bet you he's never had to scrub toilets in his life. And then we're wussified. What a pussy. You do realize the last 20 years most of my friends have been to war. So what a dick.
About eating at home is cheaper than eating out, and you would piss off half of the nation.
You know, this
How
goes
in the
back.
world is that controversial?
You started the trend, Dave, because you've always said.
I know, but how is it that America is so completely wussified that the idea that you should not eat out if you're broke causes you to be angry and hate George? Unbelievable.
In their defense, I have a punchable face. I understand.
No.
But
Not for that.
Here's
You
what
might get a punchable face for something else.
Here's what happened.
This is just pitiful.
I did a talk.
Dang, George, kick us while we're down. I do enjoy eating out even though I'm poor. You need to value your own time as if you're a king. It takes time to make your own food. You...
Well, we got the opening there. Jesus Christ. I do not want to punch George in the face. And I've never bullied anybody. I was bullied in high school.
I don't want to punch him in the face, no.
I will say this, though. I have never wanted to shove two people into a locker so bad in my fucking life. Okay, where's this going? So George says, basically he's saying, look, it's cheaper to eat at home, which is true. For the most part. You know, it depends, but they're all upset because people got on him for him saying that. So, I don't know. Do you have any opinion on where this is going, or do you think it's just going to be a fucking shit show at this point?
I feel like we need to watch a little more because I don't feel like I've quite grasped enough of again, I guess we're coming back to coherency. This is the sentences are kind of formulating, but the paragraphs aren't exactly. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, they're getting.
we might need to go a little further to.
They're upset about the comments, and that means we're all wusses. They're tough guys.
Not that part.
They're
What are you saying, Dave? We're ranting, but let's make this rant have a point here.
yeah, they're tough guys. Look how tough they are.
Wussies! You unbelievable little children people! Unbelievable!
I would watch an entire show of just Dave doing impressions of the commenters. This is brilliant. Okay.
All right, George, just, you can pull your nose out of his butt. It's okay, George.
Don't even read comments, but they told me they were vicious on your Instagram, so I pulled them up, and I am laughing my butt off at how pitiful you people are commenting on this. You are absolute morons. This is unbelievable.
Here's what happened, Dave. Our social team took a 10-second clip from my talk at our Smart Conference event in Dallas about the cost of eating out, and we're trying to help people find margin in their budgets with inflation. So I'm just telling people, hey, eat at home. Eat at a new place called Mi Casa, if you want to save some money. So, James, play the clip so that everyone understands
why you are the most hated man in America.
Who knew this is how I get canceled? Cost of a meal right now is $13. Eating at home, $4. So when you eat out, here's the math, because I'm a nerd. You spent 325% more. Enjoy. That was the entire clip. And it got 1.7 million views on TikTok, 300,000 views on Instagram, and most of those were hate watches because they're angry. Now, I will say, Dave, there was one comment that was true. It is 225% more. It's 3.25 times more, but 225% more. So for the true...
Wait, that doesn't make sense. That makes no sense. Okay. Sorry, if something is...
Okay, regardless of the percentage stuff,
it's just bad math.
It is cheaper to eat at home. I don't
True.
really hear the percentage part, but it's cheaper to eat at home.
1 second, pause.
Yes.
Sorry, I kind of screwed this up, but let's back up so I can pull it off. All right. No, it is way cheaper to eat at home. So let me do Okay, here it is. So I actually, while he was doing that, I'm like, $4. I'm trying to figure out where he got this. Da, 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 da. Oh, shit. Okay. So here is, oh, here it is. Look at this. So I just Googled average meal price at home, and this article came up from Forbes.
So there's this Forbes article.
So clearly he just read a Forbes article, because this is where he got it. Because here they're doing, where was that? I found the graph. There it is. So here the graph, home cooking, about $4.31.
$4.
Meal kit,
$12.50.
20. Okay, but here's the problem. They're doing it average price per serving, not per meal. And serving sizes are different, or there's different from groceries you buy versus what you get at a restaurant. Because a restaurant sets its own serving size. Groceries are standard serving size, so those are different.
And a meal kit is a very pre-portioned sort of scenario.
Right. So here's the other thing. What was it? Oh, okay. So here, so they got it. Where was it? I just skimmed through. Okay, here we analyzed data from Price Economics customer Wellio, a platform that breaks down millions of recipes. Okay. So this is Price Economics is the company who wrote this article. And they're a former contributor. This is a 4-year-old article. So they're a former contributor, which means Forbes does not take them anymore. Now, if they're a contributor with this kind of article, what that means is Price Economics paid Forbes for this article. This is an advertisement for their customer, Wellio, and Wellio does this sort of research kind of stuff. So Price Economics, let's look at them real quick. This is so fucking stupid. I can't believe, for a guy who claims to be a nerd, and he can't even read. Okay, Price Economics. We help companies turn their data into content marketing that performs. So Price Economics' job is your company, you hire them, they're going to take your data and they're going to spin it into advertising and marketing. So this whole article that he's quoting at their Smart conference is about advertising. And who's it mainly advertising for? This business Wellio, which is, let's see, data source. Oh, here, check this out. This will be fun. Data source Wellio. Where was it? I found it just a second ago. Data source Wellio, right here. Let's go to Wellio. Oh, they're no longer in business.
Oh, jeez.
And Price Economics is no longer allowed to buy advertising articles like this on Forbes. And this video from them was from December 5th. Right? So he's quoting a 4-year-old article that was an advertisement for one company for another. The company that was for it doesn't exist. The company that advertised it is no longer allowed to do any advertising on Forbes. And this is his source.
Well, it's a terrible source, but the fact still remains it is cheaper to cook your own meals
Sure.
home and eat at home rather than eating out for dinner every night. And
Sure.
that just remains true regardless of terrible sources and bad math.
Sure. But, okay, when they're talking about eating out, this is let me show you this. It's amazing how easy some of this is. Eating out here, what they're talking about is $5 delivery fee. So this is you getting it delivered. That's where the restaurant is. So they're adding a delivery fee of $5. Plus you got to add tip. Right?
Okay, but Duncan,
It inflates the number.
I think he actually messed this up even further. saying about the meal out being $13, and actually, according to that Forbes article, that $13 is for a meal kit, not the restaurant meal either. So he didn't even. There are other data mess ups there, obviously, but he didn't even select the restaurant number, regardless of delivery fee. So that's not. He didn't do that right either.
No, and the meal kit thing is kind of stupid because meal kits they deliver every week they deliver the meals to you, right? And you have subscriptions, and those can get spendy too. But let's just say let's 20 to 4, right? So $20 to eat out versus 4. Let's just go with that, even though that's the math here is bullshit. Let's just go with that. So that would be $16. Let's say you did that every night of the year, for 365 days in a year, right? That would be $5,800, $5,840 that you spend. Okay? Do most people eat out every single night of the week? No. Right?
Well, I live in New York City. It's like
some people
takeout city. Some people
really
don't turn a stove on.
Yeah, but takeout's different because you're not paying a delivery fee, right? And then it depends too. Like when I cook, like I'm gonna buy, the nicer cut of meat. So yeah, it's not $4 a meal for me, even if I'm cooking. It's gonna be more like $8. But I'm just going with their numbers here for now. So let's say 5,840. Let's say you only eat out half the time. Okay. So you would have spent $2,900 and $2,920 eating out for the year. Okay. Which isn't, I don't know that that's horrible. Depends on what your budget is and what you can do. Here's the thing. He's delivering that at the Dave Ramsey Smart Conference, right? You know what ticket prices are for the Dave Ramsey Smart Conference? $3,000 a person.
More than a $20 meal.
$3,000 a person. Oh man.
Wow.
So here's my 1-2 knockout punch, and then we'll see if they say anything clever. But do you want some financial advice, boys and girls? Don't spend $3,000 to go listen to a guy who has no financial education, misquote a Forbes article that's really an advertisement. Take that $3,000 and go out to dinner. That's my advice. That's my advice. Or save it. I don't care what you do with it. Just don't blow it on.
I just can't even believe. I'm not surprised you didn't realize it was it takes a little bit more knowledge and understanding, I think, to get to that. But he didn't even quote it right.
No.
He didn't even quote it right.
No.
That
Whether he got it from Forbes or the study, he was way off. The thing about it is that you basically, at that point, you spent $3,000 to listen to a guy who read an article once, misquote it.
Right.
I mean, how much more of a scam could this be? I don't know. I don't know how I can sell this any better. This is just total horseshit. And I can see why they're so defensive, because they basically got caught with their pants down.
In the comments, I salute your extra math there. But for everyone else, they're going, what was this, the 1990s? You can't eat out for... My Taco Bell cost $16.
Guys, let me just tell you, it's a simple freaking formula. If you run a restaurant, you pay the food cost, and you pay rent, and you pay insurance, and you pay labor to cook the food.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, I'm done with this. I'm running this at almost 1.5 times speed. That's how slow he speaks.
Oh man, that was rough.
Yeah, that was terrible. I'm like, I can't anymore. Yeah, so with restaurants, real simple stuff, guys. Restaurants, their food costs are a lot less than yours because they tend to buy wholesale. They don't buy retail because it would kill their profit margin. And when you're a restaurant, you want to keep the food prices, at a high enough level that you're making a profit, but not too high that it's going to drive away customers. So restaurants are trying to keep it reasonable within their budget and within what's going on. The other thing is yeah, they have to pay for rent and employees and all that other stuff. That's why if you go to a really nice restaurant and they have like a Michelin chef, yeah, you're paying $50 for that steak. It's just, because they got to pay him or her, and they're probably making $250,000 a year. Easily. If they're a Michelin chef, probably more than that. But yeah, that's just sort of the reality. Now, the other side of the coin is if you're shopping at Whole Foods and you're buying a lot of organic stuff or you're a vegan, yeah, your grocery bill is going to be a little bit higher than if you just went to Subway or you went to the taco stand or, the teriyaki place and just got takeout. It's probably more expensive for you to cook. Plus, when you're cooking, you got to remember, you got to book the time for that. You got to make sure you have the time to go to the grocery store to get all the right ingredients. You got to have the pots and the pans.
Like prep things and all that too.
Right. And the kind of stuff that they put on the menu there, you got to have the right pots, pans, the right stove, the right grill. You got to have a Cuisinart and a blender and a mixer. You got to know how to make all this shit, which means you got to learn how to make all of it, which takes time. Right? And do you really want to spend 10 hours a week doing all that? Because you also have to clean it up. And doing dishes and all that stuff costs time and money. So, there's just a lot of things that was like, yeah, it's cheaper to cook in. And especially if you're really eating cheap and you're on a budget. Yeah, it's cheaper to cook in your own place. But at the same time, it's like, it's more time consuming. So you got to factor it in. And furthermore, is it even giving the biggest spread that they assumed, which we know is probably bullshit, even then, $5,000 plus a year, you have to, that's if you're eating out every night. Or you're having food delivered, every night. Yeah, that would be, you might sit there and go, maybe we should cut back. But if you're talking about, okay, I'm spending maybe $1,000 a year eating out or $2,000, depending on my budget, for me, it's like, especially the way I cook and eat, it's really not that much more expensive for me to go out than it is to cook at home. So,
see, and I am going to say it is significantly less expensive
right.
for me to cook at home.
Yeah. But you don't eat meat as often as I do. So.
True.
Meat gets expensive, especially when you like really good meat.
But I do eat a plant-based diet, and so there are specialty items in there, and I primarily consume organic.
Yeah. So that can be
still significantly cheaper for me.
Yeah.
And I live in New York City.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's in New York. In Oregon, it's not such a big deal because we don't have sales tax and everything here is pretty much farm to table. So.
Right. I'm just saying I'm an example of a person in a high cost of living area where, the cooking at home actually is cheaper, even though my grocery spending, while I don't eat meat, I eat a lot of organics, and there's specialty items associated with a plant-based diet frequently, and those tend to be a little more expensive too. But I'll put that into the camp, though, of I don't mind eating things left over, and not everybody does that, right?
Right.
Not everybody's going to cook one or two big things for the week and just eat them for the week. If you're going to cook something different every single day, you're going to drive up your costs, right?
Right.
So they're not taking all that into account either.
Well, plus I can get a large pizza for $20, and that's going to be at least 3 or 4 meals for me. I'm not going to eat a whole freaking pizza in one sitting.
I hope not. You make yourself sick.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are looking for information about courses and articles, you can find me at mysensewithsense.com. And if you'd like to write in about those items or about Duncan's services, or because you have suggestions for us, clips for us, or questions for us, Duncan, how can they find us?
They can get us at our email. It's gossipfinancead@outlook.com. Thank you for joining us. Good work, Lacey, and we will catch you guys later. Have a great week.
Thank you all, and click and subscribe.